Good evening again, folks. Cormac McDonagh here, site leader for Thermic in Galway. This is actually an update today, Saturday the 11th of April, on the video I circulated on Wednesday the 8th. I want to start with the government announcements yesterday evening and add the latest decisions by our Train Technologies senior leadership team regarding a ramp up of additional employee protections that we plan to implement early next week. First, some scientific information from Professor Philip Nolan.
Been monitoring the epidemic very closely, and as I would have said last week, there's clear evidence that the social distancing measures that are designed to reduce the transmission of the virus are having a very profound effect on the transmission of the virus. And we know that, first of all, because we're seeing a day-on-day reduction in the growth rate of the epidemic. At the beginning of the epidemic, that was over 30% increase in confirmed cases per day. Last week, it was down to 15% increase day on day, and we're now a little bit below 10%, so it's 9% over the last 5 days.
And next, the announcement from An Taoiseach regarding the extension of the lockdown.
Your sacrifices are making a difference. We've slowed the spread of the virus considerably, but unfortunately we have not stopped its spread. We all know people who are suffering and grieving at this time. Too many have died, and sadly more will die and get sick before this is over. So today's message is that we cannot be complacent and we cannot lose focus. What we're doing is difficult, but is making a difference, and we have to keep going. We need to persevere, and we need to maintain our discipline and resolve. The restrictions we introduced 2 weeks ago were set to expire on Sunday. Today, the expert recommendation is to extend them for a further 3 weeks until Tuesday, May 5th.
Now I'd like to share some of the additional measures that we're taking. Maybe sharing this first example is a little bit over the top, but here it goes. Enough said. We've taken the temporary measure of jamming doors open so that nobody has to touch handles as they walk through the buildings. As you can see, everybody in my block upstairs is working from home except myself. I did it last week, and I take my hat off to the rest of you. I found it very difficult to do. I'd say I put on a couple of kilos to boot. As Karen Higgins says, she's struggling to keep a social distance between her and the fridge. In I go, and even after using soap and water to wash my hands, I just want to be doubly cautious. We've now contracted Breen Environmental to do a deep clean of the plant every Wednesday night. They fully disinfect all stations on each of the 3 assembly lines. They're also disinfecting a lot of the areas that are in heavy common use. I'd like to take the opportunity to bring you up to speed on the status of employees in self-isolation. We started with 25 and we are now down to 12. Thankfully, so far, none of our Galway-based employees have had a positive COVID test result. We are disappointed to report that we've had our first Thermo King employee in Europe test positive this week. This happened 3 days after somebody that they lived with had earlier tested positive. We want to remind all employees of the golden rule. Once you identify the symptoms, please do not show up at work. Please pay special attention if somebody that you live with is also reporting the same symptoms. Our colleagues in the US, due to the fact that they have experienced a number of cases there, have started to look at ramping up the protective measures to reduce the opportunity for virus spread in the workplace. We are taking the same measures here. Thankfully, up until a couple of days ago, with a population of 250,000, County Galway only had 112 cases. We've been reliably told that at present, our main COVID hospital, UHG, has capacity and is not overstretched in ICU. In the plant, our social distancing has been working well. Here's the trailer line at 1 man 2 stations. Line is also working well at 2 men 3 stations. You can see here that we've placed a perspex screen in between 2 stations. The evap line 2 is running well at 1 man 2 stations. You see Jerry here patrolling with his bicycle horn in case he spots anybody that's got too close for comfort. Tables have been removed from the main canteen and chairs have been located a good healthy distance from each other. The canteen opening hours for lunchtime have also been extended to keep density low. Similar strategy was used in the amenity area. A good number of people are bringing in their own lunch every day. Here you can see Paul Flanagan's tamper-proof hand sanitizers. And here's Damien doing the rounds, filling them up. Go on. Part of our plan to step up the protective measures is to provide surgical masks from Tuesday next. As we discussed before, for healthy people, the benefits of wearing masks are questionable. However, for anyone with the virus, and that could include all of us, masks stop the wearer from projecting any droplets containing the virus onto others. Medics wear them as they work in a high-risk environment. If they've contracted the virus, then by wearing the mask, they can stop spreading it to others. When you're removing your mask, treat it as if the outside surface could always be contaminated. We have a supply of 400 face visors or face shields arriving next week that can be worn over surgical masks if preferred. Now we're asking ourselves, what additional steps can we take to help protect our employees from the outbreak? Our colleagues in the train plant in Taichung, China, which employs more than 1,000 employees, are adamant that the temperature screening that they've been carrying out has been really helping to provide extra protection. Taichung is back at 100% of capacity with all employees at work. You can see employees in the bottom left here keeping their distance from each other and queuing up for the temperature check. On the bottom right, you can see 2 security personnel checking all employees as they enter the factory. We have now acquired 3 of those non-contact thermometers, and we plan to do exactly the same thing starting next week. Please remember that our first line of defense is for all of us every morning to self-check our symptoms. If you can, it would be great to check your temperature at home. 37.3 is the magic number. This is the temperature level to be used at home in stable conditions to identify a fever. This self-assessment process is what we call passive screening. If you have a fever and any one of the following symptoms, a dry cough, fatigue, sputum production, shortness of breath, sore throat, or headache, please stay at home. We've now established 2 screening points. One in the front car park. You can see it here where the red arrows point from the car park to the screening point. Follow the direction. When you get close, you'll spot red painted dots on the tarmac. They indicate to you the correct distance to keep from the employee in front. The screening points will operate between 5:30 and 9:30 to facilitate all employees arriving at different shift starts so that you get screened just once per day. The screening points will be controlled by security personnel. They'll take your temperature 3 times without touching your forehead using one of the thermometers you've seen above. The average will be recorded as your temperature and you'll be allowed to pass through if below 38.0. 38.0 degrees is the set point for this active screening temperature check. It's used to check the temperature of somebody that's moving at walking pace where the temperature is taken in a non-contact mode. The security personnel will be fully equipped with appropriate PPE, including a face visor, mask, plastic gloves, and a gown. Thankfully, we don't have to separate the robots. And you can see the good, safe social distancing on the start of the trailer line. We were still working on setting up screen point 1 this afternoon. Screen point 1 will be convenient for anybody using the back car parks. You'll enter through the marquee. The ground will be marked in the same way as screen point 2. You'll pass security here for temperature taking, and then access will be given to the double doors. The main entrance will only be opened from 9:30. As this screening may continue for a number of weeks or months, we've decided to invest in a couple of thermal optical cameras. They're due to arrive in 2 weeks. You can see the cameras working here. They're much less obtrusive and should make life more convenient for us all. You can see the temperatures of all employees entering the plant visible here. They can be recorded like that. Finally, just a word on our operational planning. Our customer demand is still relatively strong. Our supply chain is still weak and we couldn't sustain full production at the moment. Our suppliers are advising us that they should be able to support us to return to full production sometime around the end of the first week of May. That remains the case, and demand holds up. We expect to return to full production around that time. If virus spread is still an issue, we may need to reopen on 2 shifts. To those of you working from home, just a word about the employees that show up at the plant every day. The morale is absolutely excellent. I'm really proud of all of the team, and I want to say a special thank you to you all. Talk to you next time.